This was open. I didn't go in.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Good to see you all here tonight. We got some very exciting things going on, of course. A couple of swearing-ins and a new person coming on to our police force. So we'll get to that shortly. And then we have a special presentation later on as well. So before we start, we're going to call the meeting of January 23rd, 2020 to order. Ben, can I have the roll call, please?
Deputy Mayor Napolitani.
Here.
Council members Achara.
Here.
Donlin.
Here.
Fisher.
Here.
And Mayor Sulciano.
Here, everybody please rise for a pledge of allegiance, and then please remain standing for a moment, a silent prayer. Thereafter, we tonight are going to remember our Mike Basillo, our manager's father-in-law passed, so we're going to remember him tonight. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. And again, our condolences to Tara Lee Masillo and her family and for her loss of her pop. The notice requirement for the Open Public Meeting Act has been satisfied. A copy of the annual notice was sent to the Asbury Park Press Coaster, posted in Town Hall, and filed in the office of the Municipal Clerk on December 30, 2019. There are two fire exits, one to my left behind the barrage of our finest back there. It'll bring you out to the front parking lot. And one to my right, which will also bring you out to the parking lot. If you have a cell phone, we ask that you turn the volume down. You can keep it on if you like to take pictures, but if you need to make a call, kindly go out into the hallway. It interferes with our cameras. We tape and archive all the meetings. Or on YouTube. You can watch them the next day. Watch yourself on TV, comb your hair, look good. And I think that's it. Before we get to council comments, we're going to come down from the dais, and I'm going to bring the chief up because we have a couple of promotions and a new swearing in. Very exciting. Thank you, Ed McMahon. What? Oh, he likes it.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to do it.
Pounds lighter.
Oh yeah, chief going to do that. So, very exciting. This is some of the stuff that we really like to do. We talk about it all the time whenever there's a promotion and or a new hire. And the chief will tell you, and the senior officers, they go through these stacks and stacks of applications because Ocean Township only hires the best. And so they'll tell you every time they get about 100 applicants just to apply for this position here at Ocean Township. It's a very demanding police force, and it's a great police force. It's an accredited department. Well, we've had, what, 3 of the last 5 years, right?
We are number 3.
Okay, so that's something really to aspire to. So we do that every time. So we have a very great police department. So to our new hire, congratulations, and we'll congratulate you. Also to our promotees, again, they go through another process that's very difficult and arduous and very competitive. And the chief will tell you, sometimes you don't always get it on the first crack. Doesn't mean you're not a good person or a fantastic officer. We set the bar a little bit higher than the next town, and that's just the way Ocean Township is. We got a lot at stake here. You guys are the ones that are protecting us out there, and we demand excellence, and we get it. So, without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to the chief. He's going to tell us all about our exciting new promotees and our new hiring.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. So tonight we have 2 brand new sergeants and 1 new police officer. We've spent a great deal of 2019 promoting and hiring, and we are still hiring. Thank you, Tom. And with that being said, we'll be continuing in early 2020 as well with filling various vacancies that occur from retirements and transfers and so forth and other. So, not to take up too much time tonight, I know there's a lot on the agenda. Let me tell you about our first new sergeant, Michael Melby. He started with the police department in 2007. Worked in the Patrol Bureau, and then was assigned into the Detective Bureau, where he specialized in juvenile issues, and he also was heavily involved in the intermediate school with the DARE, then changed to LEAD program, and was also very instrumental in running our big LEAD graduation day every year at the intermediate school, always a big hit. Since then, Mike's worked hard and has now made it to the rank of sergeant. I'm very proud of him. He's going to be a great asset to the organization, and With that being said, I'm then next happy to announce the promotion of Elisa Antunes, who started us with 2008 as a Special Law Enforcement Officer 2. Not long thereafter that, she was hired as a full-time police officer, and she worked in the Patrol Bureau for several years before being transferred into the Traffic Bureau, where she certainly has worked hard on her own and under things that we've needed both from me and the council painstakingly. She's also very instrumental in the Rude Awakening program, which is a drug driving awareness program that we do in the high school at the 11th grade level. And each year we try to put something together with that, and Elisa's always on the ball with that and ahead of the schedule. And there's a lot to do for that, as some of the school people I see here now know we went through to get that program off the ground. So I have two fantastic candidates here to present to you, Mayor. We'll start with Sergeant Michael Melody, the first swearing in, followed by Elisa Antunes.
And again, as I say, it's always an honor here. I ran into Mike last week over at the 7-Eleven, and there he was in his brand new uniform. He had this beautiful shirt, had the sharp crease on it. He had the vibrant stripes. Woo, baby, what happened? New stripes? Yes. He grew another 2 inches walking out the door. It's unbelievable. We're honored. We really are. All right, raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Michael Melody,
Do solemnly swear.
do solemnly swear
I will support the Constitution
I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United
and
States
the Constitution
and the
of
Constitution
the State of New Jersey.
of the State of New Jersey.
I will bear truth, faith, and allegiance
I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments established in the United States
and to the governments established in the United States
and in this state,
and in this state,
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people.
I do further solemnly swear
I do further solemnly
I
swear
will impartially,
I will impartially,
justly perform all the duties
perform all the duties
of the position of sergeant
of the position of sergeant
for the Township of Ocean Police Department
for the Township of Ocean Police Department
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. One more for the mantle.
Elisa, come on up.
Little man? Can you hold it up nice and high first, Bob? Big arms, yeah, big arms. Elise, again, we're very honored to do this for you. You work very hard. You got a great reputation in this department, so keep up the great work. All right, I state your name.
I, Elisa Antunes,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United
and the
States
Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and to the governments established in the United States
and to the governments established in the United States
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people.
I do further solemnly swear
I do further solemnly swear
I will faithfully,
I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly
and justly
perform all the duties
perform all the duties
of sergeant
of sergeant
for the Township of Ocean Police
for
Department
the Township of Ocean Police
according
Department
to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations. Hey, we'll have everybody up for a group shot right after that, Chief. That way we get them all at once. Okay, Chief. New guy.
Okay, and at this time I'll introduce our new police officer, Mr. Mario Payton. He's a Tom's River resident. He just recently finished his 2-year associate's degree with Thomas Edison State University. And I just want to make a note that Mario has worked painstakingly to finish that degree this year. And we're very proud of him for doing that. As you may or may not know, one of the requirements for entry-level police officer is at least a 2-year degree. And Mario has fulfilled that, and we are very happy. Mario started with us last year as a Special Law Enforcement Officer 2. He worked from January of last year up until December of this year. before going through our process and now being hired full-time. So very proud of Mario. He's going to be also a very great asset to the town and the department. He's already well-known. He's a great guy, kind stature, very good with everybody that he comes across, and I hear nothing but positive comments about him. So Mario, come on up here.
All right, we have somebody?
Yes.
All right, good, how are you? All right, all right. And Emma, raise your right hand. Okay, Mario. Welcome aboard, by the way. We're glad to have you here. I heard some great things about you.
Thank you, sir.
You'll do great at this position. Okay, so repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Mario Payton,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly
that
swear
I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United
and the
States
Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
and I will bear truth, faith, and allegiance to the same,
and to the governments established in the United States
and to the government established in the United
and
States
in this state
and in this state,
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people.
I do further solemnly swear
I do further solemnly
that
swear
I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully,
justly,
justly,
and impartially
and impartially
perform all the duties
perform all the duties
of the position of police officer
of the position of police officer
for the Township of Ocean Police
for
Department
the Township of Ocean Police Officer
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my
So
ability.
help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Welcome. If we can have the two sergeants come on up, we'll do a group shot for the paper and for everybody else, we'll get that out of the way. You all right, Chief, I'm putting it down. Ooh, he's,
Slider.
What was that? I know.
I was like, I didn't know you saw it. It's like, you heard the scratching.
we block him out.
It's close. I almost got Mike. He's got his boots on today, that's why.
The officials, not the cameras on the Thank you.
Hold on. Hold on.
You got it, John? Okay. All right, Chief. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, we're gonna continue with our meeting. Good seeing you again, Sergeant. We're gonna conclude the balance of the meeting here. So, as I was getting to, we have some council reports. We're gonna start with.
You want to do this first? It's up to you.
Yeah, we can. You know what? We're going to hold off on the council reports because we do have a special guest here with us tonight for a deer management presentation, right? And I'm going to turn it over to the young lady. Marge, you want to introduce our guest and tell folks what it's about?
I'm pleased to have Doris Lynn here with us today, who is the legal counsel for the Animal Protection League of New Jersey. And she is going to present tonight on non-lethal options for deer conflict management. So I'm very grateful she's here. Thank you for coming and taking the time. And
Thank you so much for inviting me, Margie, and council and mayor.
Yeah. So would you like us to dim one bank of lights? Do you think that makes a difference?
Yeah, if that makes it easier to see the screens.
Yeah, maybe one bank would hurt. Vinny's good at figuring this out. Not. That one looks good there. Looks good there, eh?
Okay.
Look good, everybody? Good? Yeah. Good. Well,
you.
thank you. Yeah, we a while back we had a presentation on the deer management from Game and Wildlife of New Jersey, and we promised folks we'd also have the alternative method of deer control management, and that's why we have you here tonight. So we're going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate the opportunity. First, a little bit about my background. I have a degree in applied biological sciences from MIT. I've worked for the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection and the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. I then went to law school and I'm now an attorney specializing in animal law, and I'm the author of the Wildlife Protection chapter in the New Jersey Environmental Law Handbook. Okay. I'm going to start with some fun facts about deer. Their lifespan is 6 to 25 years in captivity, usually 4.5 years in the wild. For adult deer, unfortunately, their number one cause of mortality is hunting. Their diet is herbivorous. Their preferred habitat is the forest edge. They like that edge habitat where there's the small saplings, the shrubbery. They're nervous and shy. They typically mate in the second year. Female fawns typically live with their mother for 1 to 2 years. Males leave after 1 year. And deer are a keystone herbivore who have co-evolved with the forest for 3.4 to 3.9 million years. The color of their fur is grayer in the winter and redder in the summer. No two fawns have the same arrangement of spots. Male deer shed and grow new antlers every year. Deer can jump high, swim well, and run up to 30 miles an hour. Deer scat helps to spread seeds. They're very good for the environment. Fawns do not have a smell, helping them to avoid predators. And deer have 310-degree vision compared to humans who have only 180. Okay. So everyone wants to know, are the deer overpopulated? These are the most recent numbers that we have from the Division of Fish and Wildlife. You can see they were at their peak in the 90s, and that's also when we had the most hunters. We'll talk more about that later. And now it's about 100,000 deer in New Jersey. So there's a difference between biological carrying capacity and cultural carrying capacity. Biological carrying capacity is the maximum number of individuals the ecosystem can support without threatening other species in the ecosystem. Cultural carrying capacity is often a lower number. It's the number people will tolerate. So the deer have not exceeded their biological carrying capacity in New Jersey, but they may have exceeded their cultural carrying capacity in some areas. But cultural carrying capacity can change depending on the attitudes and attitudes of people and public education. So how are hunting policies made? In New Jersey, we have the New Jersey Division of Fish and Wildlife, and within the division is the New Jersey Fish and Game Council. By statute, the New Jersey Fish and Game Council is an 11-member board, and 6 of the members must be hunters. Often, several of the other members are also hunters, and there have been times when all 11 members were hunters. There's lobbying by groups backed by the NRA, backed by the gun and ammunition companies, hunters, packs, and caucuses, and it's important to follow the money. The Division of Fish and Wildlife used to be supported 100% through the sales of hunting, trapping, and fishing licenses. Now, with the number of hunters dropping off, they do get some money from the general treasury, but they have this incentive to increase hunting and fishing and trapping because that generates money for them through the sales of permits. So there are several myths about deer. We're going to hopefully debunk them tonight. A term that you've probably heard is overabundance. Overabundance is not a scientific word, but when people talk about deer being overabundant, it makes people think that the deer are biologically overpopulated, and they are not. Car deer accidents are actually increased by hunting because the hunters tend to drive the deer. This is a popular practice in hunting. So a group of hunters will line up and walk through the woods, driving the deer towards other hunters who are waiting on the other side so that they can be shot. But this also causes the deer to run into roads. And the Erie Insurance Company did a study and found that deer car collisions spiked on the first day of hunting season every year. Lyme disease is spread more to people through mice than by deer. Mice will come right up to your home, they'll even come into your home, and they are carrying the black-legged tick that spreads Lyme disease. Of course, deer and other animals are also hosts for the same tick, but the mice are the main problem, and we'll talk more about that later. Hunters often say that if they don't kill the deer will starve to death, but the hunters aren't going for the weakest deer who tend to starve to death. They tend to go for the large trophy bucks, the largest, healthiest deer, instead of the weak, the sick, the old deer. Hunters do not take the place of natural predators. Just like with starvation, they're going for, the healthiest animals instead of the weakest animals. You'll often hear proponents of hunting say that their sport is very safe. They'll compare it to football, they'll compare it to cheerleading, but hunting threatens the whole community. If you participate in football or cheerleading, you're a willing participant, you're taking those risks. hunting endangers innocent bystanders. Also, hunters like to say that they pay for conservation, but most of that money comes from the general public. They get money through the Pittman-Robertson Act, which is a federal excise tax on weapons and ammunition. And most people who buy weapons and ammunition are not hunters, but all of those excise taxes go into the Pittman-Robertson Fund, and that money gets distributed to the states based on the number of licensed hunters that they have. So there's another incentive for the state to have a high number of hunters. Also, it's a myth that hunting controls the deer population, and we're going to go more into that. So there's a lot of ways that deer management in New Jersey increases the deer population for hunters. One way is farm leases. The state will lease land on state property, such as wildlife management areas, to farmers, and they are required to plant deer-preferred crops, and they're required to keep a percentage of the crops standing in order to feed the deer. The state also clear cuts areas in order to create that edge habitat that deer prefer. They also have prescribed burns, which creates that edge habitat. There's also compensatory rebound effect. If the deer are near their biological carrying capacity, if there's a high number of deer in the area, and you come in and you kill half the deer, there's suddenly twice as much habitat and food and other resources for the deer, and those does will have more twins and triplets come springtime. If there's scarce food, then the does will resorb some of those embryos, and you'll have fewer fawns born in the springtime. The state also plants food plots for the deer on state wildlife management areas, in addition to having the farmers plant them through the farm leases. Hunters also feed and bait the deer. You can see this ad was in the Division of Fish and Wildlife's annual magazine. They publish an annual magazine with all the hunting and trapping regulations, and this ad says, "I feed year-round for this one day." Hunters feed the deer because it gives them, that robust, healthy, well-fed deer population that they like, and it increases deer fertility. So part of the solution is to reverse these long-established practices that increase the deer population. So this map shows the different deer hunting districts throughout New Jersey. 63.9% of New Jersey is managed for stabilization or increase of the deer. They're not trying to reduce the deer in 63.9% of New Jersey. And the Division of Fish and Wildlife actually lists the deer as a decreasing species in New Jersey. As you saw from the chart earlier, the numbers were higher 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So we believe that hunting is a failed experiment. In the 2018-2019 hunting season, hunters killed over 50,000 deer in New Jersey. And how many deer are in New Jersey? About 100,000. So they kill half the deer population every year, and yet people still complain there are too many deer. And it's because of those practices we talked about earlier, the compensatory rebound effect. Oh, and this photo is from the Deer Classic. This is an annual event that the Division of Fish and Wildlife holds where they give awards to hunters based on the size of the deer and the size of the antlers that the deer have. They have a whole scoring system.
Miss, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So, with all due respect, is this a political statement, or are we going to learn how to, the non-lethal way to take care
We'll
of
get
deer?
into that, yes.
Well, is there any more politics involved?
Let me see.
I mean, with all due respect,
Yes.
I mean, you're just bashing the hunters. And when they came here, they didn't bash you.
Oh, well, we're not doing anything to increase or decrease the deer population. We wanted to let you know why the deer population is so high.
No, we
So
were
high.
here to tell us how to prevent deer population from growing in a non-lethal manner. Is that part of your presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, part of it is reducing or eliminating those practices that increase the deer population.
We don't control the state.
Okay.
So we're looking how we're going to control the deer in Ocean Township.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Another myth is about deer deforesting the forests in New Jersey. So in 2016, the greatest forest damage was caused by gypsy moth defoliation. Southern pine beetle mortality was found to be over 4,000 acres, and wildlife mortality, including the deer, was only 1,427 acres. So you can see in the grand scheme of things, deforestation by deer is a relatively small problem. And if you see pictures of the forest with a lot of large old-growth trees and no saplings, it's not necessarily because of deer damage. This chart shows you the natural succession from field to forest as the forest becomes an old-growth forest, and you're not going to have that shrubbery and those little saplings because the sunlight doesn't hit the the forest floor as much. So now we're going to talk about how we can prevent deer-human conflicts. In Wyoming, they discovered an amazing, inexpensive way to avoid car-deer collisions. They were experimenting with reflectors, and they found that when they wrapped some of the reflectors in white cloth, so it basically wasn't a reflector anymore, it prevented crashes even more than a reflector. And they believe it's because that white cloth looks like the white tail of a deer going up, warning the deer to stay away from an area. There's also a new sonic device that's been found to be very effective against to repel deer from highways. And there are, of course, reflectors.
Can I ask you a question on
Yes.
that? So you're saying the white flag, you're covering a reflector that's already there?
Well, in
Saying
this,
if we just hang white flag, and I'm trying to learn.
Okay.
So the white flag, you're saying we could put white flags up along Whale Pond and Deal, in our case, where we have the heaviest deer population, and that may stop them from coming across the street?
yes. Yeah, in this case, I think it was something they discovered accidentally. They wrapped reflectors in white cloth, but it looks like you could just stick up a pole with white fabric on it. It doesn't have to be a reflector.
Okay.
So the sonic device, someone had told me they have one in their car grill. Is that the same frequency, or is that what that's supposed to do?
So there are deer whistles that you put on your car, and the air rushing through is supposed to make a sound that disturbs the deer. But there have been mixed results with that. This new sonic device is supposed to be better.
Yeah.
What do they cost? I'm sorry, I don't know. But the website is xp3hornet.com.
Okay.
So other ways to avoid deer car collisions is better lighting, turned on during twilight and turned off after midnight. Reduced speed, which reduces accidents of all kinds. Better signage, such as deer crossing signage, and wildlife crossings reduced collisions by 90% in Colorado. Let's also use common sense when driving. Use caution in areas where deer signage is present. Dusk and dawn are the high-risk time periods. If you see one deer crossing, expect to see more. Deer are edge dwellers, so pay attention to the shoulders of the road, the edges of the forest. If you notice an animal, slow down and honk your horn. Deer are unpredictable, especially when frightened, and drivers need to stay alert. So there was one time when I sort of hit a deer. I was driving and it was twilight, and I was the only car on the road. It was on a 537 in Freehold, and there was a deer just standing in the middle of the road all by himself. And I slowed down, and I was debating whether to honk my horn because I didn't know what would happen if I honked my horn. And then all of a sudden he turned and ran right in front of my car, and I was already slowing down, so I slammed on the brakes, and I just barely bumped him. And he kind of stumbled for a moment, and then he took off and ran off into the woods, and I screamed. And it was one of the most, I don't know, it was one of those moments in my life where I felt like time just slowed down, and it was just this amazing and horrifying experience all at once to see this deer just like 3 feet away from me. But I was very grateful that, nothing worse happened.
Maybe if you screamed first, you would have ran away.
Okay. Oh, and I said we would talk again about Lyme disease. So Damonix tick tubes have been proven to be very effective against Lyme disease. It's a cardboard tube that's stuffed with a soft batting, and the batting is saturated with an insecticide. And the mice will take the batting out of the tubes and use it to line their nests, and that kills the ticks. And it doesn't hurt the mice, it doesn't hurt deer, it doesn't hurt people. And it's been proven to be very effective against the spread of Lyme
Tick
disease.
tubes, that's the website?
Damonix tick tubes, yes.
I'll look that one up.
and to create a tick-free zone around your home, clear away brush, litter, and acorns, mow the grass short, move shrubbery away from your home, remove bird feeders, bird baths, and salt licks. Also, opossums eat a huge number of ticks. They eat thousands of ticks. So if you see an opossum, consider yourself lucky. Oh, and you can see in this chart from the U.S. Centers of Disease Control, there are many different species who can be hosts for the tick. It's not just deer. So a lot of people are concerned about deer eating their shrubbery and their flowers. You can plant deer-resistant plants. The Rutgers website has a list of deer-resistant plants. If you add plants with strong aromas, such as lamb's ear, oriental poppy, yarrow, sage, narcissus, peony, and lavender, that will also help to repel the deer. You can put soap around your yard. Some people put soap shavings around their yard. Some people hang whole bars of soap in their shrubbery. You can make an invisible fence using clear wire, but just make sure you don't use spikes or sharp posts because deer and other animals can become impaled on those spikes. You can spray something smelly such as hot pepper, garlic, sulfur. There are also commercial deer repellents. Noise also helps to repel deer. Some people turn on the radio in their garden. And animals learn quickly. Deer learn quickly. So sometimes you have to rotate these ideas in and out to keep the deer away from your garden. Yes?
Animals learn quickly. Won't they also learn if you put a white cloth up on a stick?
They might. You might have to alternate between the white cloth and the reflectors. Yes. Yeah. So there are non-lethal ways to control deer fertility. Don't feed the deer. Hunters feed the deer to increase fertility and increase the deer population. The first step in conflict management is to stop the practices that contribute to increasing deer fertility. And when this is not possible, in limited circumstances, we do support birth control methodologies. So different possibilities are surgical sterilization, Gonacon, which is a form of immunocontraception, PZP, which is another form of immunocontraception, and there may be other new technologies.
Are you going to get into the cost of those?
I can tell you that, actually, do I have? Not yet. Okay. What we recommend of all these methods is an ovariectomy, where the ovaries are removed. There's several different surgical sterilizations. There's ovariectomies, there's tubal ligation, where they cut the tubes in the females, and there are vasectomies. The ovariectomies are the most effective. With tubal ligation, the females will still go into heat, and a study at Cornell, you might have heard that the study at Cornell failed, because they were doing tubal ligations. The females still went into heat. So even though they weren't reproducing, their deer population stayed the same because the females were attracting males to the area because they were still going into heat and they had a lower population, and wildlife tends to move from areas of higher population density to areas of lower density. So the tubal ligation was considered a failure at Cornell. Vasectomies have been very expensive, although they're still, kind of in the experimental stage with that. The prices should come down on vasectomies, and it's generally more effective to sterilize the females as opposed to the males, because then you'll have a smaller number of males impregnating the same number of females. So with ovariectomies, where the ovaries are removed, the females do not go into heat, they do not attract males to the area. So usually that's about $1,000 per doe. But we're very lucky in New Jersey. We have a volunteer veterinarian who is willing to do ovariectomies. And other volunteers, in the other roles can also reduce the costs of surgical sterilization. And the way they do it is they put out feeding stations, baiting stations, and then when the deer come to feed, they dart them with a tranquilizer dart. And then they perform the surgical sterilization usually in a van nearby. And they would have to evaluate the area to make sure the terrain is accessible. I would imagine in this area it is. You don't have a lot of mountains, and yeah.
So the feeding station, the darting them, and then removing the ovaries, that's all done for free?
Well, the veterinarian would be volunteering his services for free, and then hopefully the other roles could also be filled by volunteers. Yeah. And I don't know how much materials would cost.
I mean, is there a case where they've done that in New Jersey, and how many is there a limit to? Hey, you guys have too many. We'll do the first 10 free, or
It's been a problem in New Jersey.
why is that?
I was going to go into it later, but I can answer it now. All applications for non-lethal management have to be approved by the Fish and Game Council. And this is the 11-member board that is, by statute, a majority hunters.
They'd be for the feeding station, but not anything else, right?
Yes.
I got you.
So, unfortunately, they have not approved a non-lethal deer management application since Princeton. I think that was like 15 years ago. Because in Princeton, the surgical sterilization proved to be so effective, they changed their rules because they want to promote hunting. And their application actually says that they will not approve a deer management application unless you have tried hunting first.
Oh.
So that's how biased the Fish and Game Council is. So one area where they've had success is San Jose, California. And in that area, the deer population got so low, they started opening the fencing to encourage more deer to come into the area because they were worried the herd was headed towards extinction. So one way that you can gauge whether your deer management program is working is by counting the deer. They do helicopter counts. They can also do spotlighting at night. You drive around at night and shine a spotlight and the deer will hold still and you see that glow in the woods. But those are both very expensive. In Hastings-on-Hudson, they did PZP, immunocontraception. And instead of counting the deer, they put pots of hostas around the town. And hostas are a deer favorite. So instead of counting the deer, they counted the hostas that survived. So in the first year, 9% of the hostas survived a month. In the second year, 12% survived. And in the third year, 24% survived. So they were seeing the effects of the immunocontraception. Oh, so one reason we recommend ovariectomies over immunocontraception is ovariectomies or any kind of surgical sterilization will have a higher upfront cost, but it's permanent. The sterilization is permanent. With immunocontraception, depending on which kind you choose, you have to do boosters every year or every 2 years, and then you have to know which deer you already got. So that's why we recommend the ovariectomies. But PZP has also been, effective in other areas.
Good.
So to obtain a permit to do non-lethal management, as I mentioned before, you have to explain why traditional deer control methods have not worked, and what they're talking about is hunting. And the application asks, describe plans to support traditional hunting where practical. The handbook that comes with the application says non-lethal approaches for controlling the number of deer can be divided into 2 categories: chemical fertility control and trap and transfer. And they say that neither of those have been successful, but there's no mention of surgical sterilization. And there's no mention, of course, of the success of surgical sterilization. So one local example is in Saddle River. They applied for a non-lethal deer management plan. They had their volunteer veterinarian all lined up. They submitted their application. They said the primary purpose of the proposed pilot program is to assess the population impacts of a very high percentage white-tailed deer capture and sterilization project in a densely developed suburban community. And they were rejected for 2 main reasons. One was the proposal cannot be both a population reduction and an experiment to determine population impacts. Why? There's no reason it can't be both an experiment to see the impact of the sterilization and, a program to reduce the deer population. And the second reason they claim was fertility research projects conducted in other states are numerous, with resultant low expectations of successfully reducing deer and an open population or reducing human-deer conflicts in a timely or cost-efficient manner. They didn't give any citations, any further documentation. They were just the Fish and Game Council was just determined to say that surgical sterilization doesn't work.
See now, they were here presenting and mentioned Saddle River that they changed their position on sterilization. Yeah, they decided not to do it. They figured it wasn't going to be effective. That's what was told to us.
Wow. I'm surprised by that.
Politics, right, Rob?
All over. All over.
So, if you love deer, please do not feed the deer. We don't want deer to become accustomed to people. We don't want them to associate people with food. We don't want them coming to suburban yards and causing conflicts. When you see the deer, the causes are many. It could be displacement. It's not necessarily because the deer population is higher. It could be because of development or construction that is displacing them from their usual habitat. Deer are highly adaptive and sentient beings. All they want to do is live and survive. They've been targeted by game agencies as the #1 hunted animal. Deer have been maligned for decades, and we have to educate the public. We ask you to join us. And we also wanted to leave you with the message that non-lethal strategies are a win-win. They tend to be uncontroversial, they're successful, and we hope that the state will get on board.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so
Very
much.
nice. Good job. Good job.
Do you have any questions?
Anybody has any questions? You have you each come up. You have a minute. You can ask our expert here.
Come up to
You know what? Let's use the microphone for this segment and just state your name and address or who you are. Identify yourself.
Coaster newspaper.
Oh, good.
Hi.
You mentioned removing the ovaries from the deer, but so how you would have to physically go to each deer and examine them to see if they have previously been operated on, right? So you'd knock them out, go in, and you'd have to physically see if they've already had the operation.
They could get an ear tag so that you can see from a distance.
And you also, you mentioned, removing ovary and stuff, but in your thing you said chemical fertility control. What would chemical fertility control be?
That would be immunocontraception like Gonacon or PZP, which can be delivered by a dart or an injection. But they have to be boosted every year or two to be effective.
You have to do every deer, every year or two.
Yes.
Okay.
And you have to keep track of which ones had
when
it that
you
year.
When you hit them with that, do they get knocked out so you could put an ear tag on them so you can tell who's got the shot and who hasn't, or do they just run off?
You could do it either way. Of course, it's more expensive if you tranquilize them first, but then you can do the ear tag so that you don't get the same deer more than
It
once.
doesn't make much sense if you don't tag them and to some degree.
Right.
Who's
Who's who? Yes.
okay, thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Don.
Peter Young, 610 Deal Road. You talked about biological carrying capacity.
Yes.
Is that something that can be calculated? Could you look at, like our park and say it's so many acres, it can support so much, or is it kind of
Yeah.
on the lawns, etc.?
Yeah, it's going to be different in every area, depending on what the habitat is like, how much food is available. Yeah.
So who would be able to do a calculation and say, looking at our township, we think we can support so many deers, and we do a count, and then we can see we have too many that we can biologically support. So we able to get kind of idea what to sort of call.
I can look into that and get back to you. Yeah, thanks. Or I can get back to council.
Yeah, you can get back to
Yes,
us. That's
okay.
fine.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have one follow-up question. So, very informative. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, if I'm hearing correctly, since the last time that a non-lethal approval was given by Fish and Game was Princeton, which was 15 years ago,
Yes.
do we have an option for a non-lethal
Well, that was
program?
going to be my next question. Seems like the New Jersey Game and Wildlife just don't approve non-lethal methods.
And I get the politics of that.
Yes.
Politics aside, I get it. But is there an option for us?
Biologically, yes. Politically, maybe not.
Oh, forget the. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So biologically, what would we need to do? How could we do it if we don't have their approval? Am I missing something?
It can't be done without their approval.
And if they haven't approved it in 15 years,
They'd be unlikely to approve it. I mean, of course, you could try to submit an application. I mean, have you had hunting?
No, no.
That's why you're
Okay.
here. We're trying to figure out from a council
Okay.
perspective what way to go.
I mean, the council does say, the Fish and Game Council does say that you have to try hunting if it's feasible in your area.
Well, that's the
They
other
might
thing.
look at the town and say, you know, it's too densely populated, it's not feasible.
Right.
So you could try submitting an application.
Yeah, I think given the nature of where our park is and in any direction you will be in a residential neighborhood, maybe they'll consider that. In other words,
Maybe.
you're a couple hundred feet that way from homes, that way, and that way. So who knows? But whatever. Okay, so it was just I picked up on what Rob said. It's that it doesn't seem likely unless you can make an argument that it's just not safe
Right,
for a lethal method of hunting
right.
and to try this method.
Can I follow up, Chris? I'm sorry. Do you have any idea how many applications have been put in since Princeton?
I don't know. I worked with Saddle River on their application, so I knew about their application. I don't know about others.
So theirs wasn't withdrawn; it was denied.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. All right. Well, thank you again. Very informative.
Thank
we
you so
appreciate you
much.
coming. Okay. 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 We're gonna give her a moment to wind down there, but
Yeah, that's fine.
while Ms. Lynn is wrapping it up, we're gonna get into our council comments at this time. John, you have a report for us?
No report.
Marge?
Nothing to report.
Okay. Dave?
Just the planning board meeting coming up Monday, the 27th of January, 7 p.m.
Rob?
Chamber of Commerce had their annual awards and scholarship luncheon yesterday. We honored Lattice Network in Ocean Township for outstanding community service, and Kim Godano, the president and CEO of Fulfill, was honored as the community ambassador. Marty did a fantastic job as the MC. And one more quick note, sorry, hold please, I didn't have this done yet. The next chamber event is going to be a mixer at Otto's, and I believe it's February 15th. And if not, you could check our website, gotcc.org, to confirm that.
Marty?
Nothing.
And I'd just like to point out that February 2nd, well, February 3rd every year is Joe Pelea Day. That's our esteemed beloved son of Ocean Township, a man who was a school teacher, a principal, and then went on to become a councilman, and then a mayor, and then an assemblyman. Freeholder. He's done everything and has done so much for the community. He got a park named after him. So we honor him, and the state legislators also honored him by giving him a day called Joe Pelea Day. And that's honored on February 3rd. However, this year we're going to have a small ceremony right out front with the family. Just a little quick memorial wreath will be planted there, and that'll be on February 2nd. And I'm talking with Denise, his daughter, trying to get it together about 10:30. So once I nail it down, we'll put something out there. Anybody wants to join us, we'll be there for that. Also, just want to remind those, in case you haven't seen already, we're into our new timers for 2020. So we have 2 timers here. And what they do is they give you an opportunity during each segment of the council meeting, come up to the microphone. You can comment on, let's say, resolutions or a consent agenda. During that time, you have 3 minutes to make any comment or question any agenda that's on the council agenda tonight. And for ordinances, the same thing. If there's an ordinance to be discussed during that open comment period, you'll have 3 minutes as well. We'll have the lights will light up here, green, yellow, and red when your 3 minutes is up. Then you get a third bite of the apple. We're being very generous now. At the conclusion of the meeting, you'll have, when we open it up to any comments, you'll have an opportunity to speak up to 5 minutes on any subject that's germane to Ocean Township. Not so much what's going on in politics in Hawaii or around the world, but Ocean Township, and you'll have 5 minutes in. So 3, 3, and 5, plenty of time, but you'll see the timers, then we'll put them on when you come up to the microphone, and just want to inform you about that. Okay, so the purpose of the public portion is to solely ask questions and not an opportunity to understand resolutions that appear on the agenda, and not an occasion for a public hearing on an ordinance. All questions not related to an item on this agenda should be asked during the public comments portion at the conclusion of the meeting. Does anybody have anything on the consent agenda and or vouchers? Now would be the time to come up, and we'll start the clock, and state your name and address for the record. Okay, seeing or hearing no one, someone please offer the consent agenda.
I'll offer the consent agenda.
Second.
I'll second.
Deputy Mayor Napolitani.
Yes.
Council members Achara.
Yes.
Donlin.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
And Mayor Sulciano.
Yes, also we have vouchers in the amount of $6,645,777.13. Anyone? Nothing.
I'll offer the voucher list.
Second?
I'll second.
Deputy Mayor Napolitani.
Yes.
Council members Achara.
Yes.
Donlin.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
And Mayor Sulciano.
Yes, and tonight for resolutions, individual action, we have 20019, state compliance and promulgation for local finance board of state of New Jersey, accepting the 2018 annual audit for the Township of Ocean. Someone please offer.
I'll offer resolution 2019.
Second?
I'll second.
Deputy Mayor Napolitani.
Yes.
Council members Achara.
Yep.
Donlin.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
And Mayor Sulciano.
Yes, 20020. Approve the continuance of an assessment installment payment plan for the owner of Block 112, Lot 1, who has become delinquent for their assessment confirmed on September 14th, 2017. Someone please offer.
I'll offer resolution 2020.
Second?
I'll second.
Deputy Mayor Napolitani.
Yes.
Council members Achara.
Yes.
Donlin.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
And Mayor Sulciano.
Yes, 20021. Authorize a maintenance contract for the Police Communications Console equipment with Wireless Communications and Electronics, Inc. for the period of January 1st through December 31st, 2020, at a cost not to exceed $18,000. Someone please offer.
I'll offer resolution 2021.
Second?
I'll second.
Deputy Mayor Napolitani.
Yes.
Council members Achara.
Yes.
Donlin.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
And Mayor Sulciano.
Yes, 20022. Extend the contract for heating and air conditioning maintenance with Air System Maintenance, Inc. for a 1 year period, January 1st through December 31st, 2020, at a cost not to exceed $23,980. Someone please offer.
I'll offer resolution 2022.
Second.
I'll second.
Deputy Mayor Napolitani.
Yes.
Council members Achara.
Yes.
Donlin.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
And Mayor Sulciano.
Yes, in 20023, extend the contract for the recapping of the tires, accessory, and road service with Edwards Tire Company, Inc. for a 1 year period during January 1st to December 31st, 2020. Someone please offer.
I'll offer resolution 2023.
Second.
I'll second.
Deputy Mayor Napolitani.
Yes.
Council members Achara.
Yes.
Donlin.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
And Mayor Sulciano.
Yes, and tonight we have for adoption several ordinances. Vin, first we have 2328. Would you read the title,
Sure.
please?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 12 of the revised general ordinances to add a no U-turn on Griffin Place.
Someone please open the public hearing on ordinance 2328.
I'll open the public hearing on ordinance 2328.
Second.
I'll second.
Deputy Mayor Napolitani.
Yes.
Council members Achara.
Yes.
Donlin.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
And Mayor Sulciano.
Yes, anybody wishing to be heard on 2328, please step up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Seeing and hearing no one, please close the public hearing on ordinance 2328.
I'll move to close the public hearing on ordinance 2328.
Second.
I'll second.
Deputy Mayor Napolitani.
Yes.
Council members Achara.
Yes.
Donlin.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
And Mayor Sulciano.
Yes, action please on ordinance number 2328.
Move to approve ordinance 2328
Publish.
and publish according to, what are we supposed to say?
Law.
Law.
Law. Second.
I'll second.
Deputy Mayor Napolitani.
Yes.
Council members Achara.
Yes.
Donlin.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
And Mayor Sulciano.
Yes, also we have ordinance 2329. Vin, would you read the title, please?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 12 of the revised general ordinances to install a stop sign at various locations throughout the township.
Great. Someone please open the public hearing on ordinance 2329.
I'll open the public hearing on ordinance 2329.
Second.
I'll second.
Deputy Mayor Napolitani.
Yes.
Council members Achara.
Yes.
Donlin.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
And Mayor Sulciano.
Yes. Please open the public hearing on ordinance 2329. We did that. Anybody wishing to be heard on ordinance 2329, step up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
Can I just, for the record, ask what's, I know there were only two and I don't have it. You mind just telling them where it is then?
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
It's the Fellsway and Buckingham Drive, and it's Garrity Place and Klein Street.
Thank you, sir.
And one will curse one way sign. Okay, seeing and hearing no one, someone please close the public hearing on ordinance 2329.
I move to close the public hearing on ordinance 2329.
Second.
I'll second.
Deputy Mayor Napolitani.
Yes.
Council members Achara.
Yes.
Donlin.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
And Mayor Sulciano.
Yes. And action please on ordinance 2329.
I move to approve ordinance 2329 and publish according to law.
Second.
I'll second.
Deputy Mayor Napolitani.
Yes.
Council members Achara.
Yes.
Donlin.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
And Mayor Sulciano.
Yes. And finally, for ordinance 2330, Vin, would you read the title?
An ordinance rescinding ordinance 611, which regulated parking along Alpern Avenue and Perrine Avenue.
So an old ordinance that was out in the books and never was taken off, and the neighbors wish not to have a restrictive parking area there. So Someone please open the public hearing on ordinance 2330.
I'll move to open the public hearing on ordinance 2330.
Second?
I'll second.
Deputy Mayor Napolitani.
Yes.
Council members Achara.
Yes.
Donlin.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
And Mayor Siciliano.
Yes. Please open the public hearing. Move. Yeah. Comments on ordinance 2330? Nobody? Anybody?
I'll, go ahead.
Seeing or hearing no one? Someone please close the public hearing on ordinance 2330.
I'll move to close the public hearing on ordinance 2330.
Second?
I'll second.
Deputy Mayor Napolitani.
Yes.
Council members Achara.
Yes.
Donlin.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
And Mayor Siciliano.
Yes, action please on ordinance 2330.
I'll move to approve ordinance 2330 and publish according to law.
Second?
I'll second.
Deputy Mayor Napolitani.
Yes.
Council members Achara.
Yes.
Donlin.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
And Mayor Siciliano.
Yes. At this time, if anybody has anything from the public you wish to share with the township, germane to Ocean Township, now would be the time to come up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Come on up and state your name and address for the record, and the clock will start
Don Geiger, 1108 Grassmere Avenue, Ocean Township.
now.
DJs, I know I'm revisiting that. However, as you go in off of West Park, there's a nice sized crater about a quarter of the way in, and there's other areas that can we make them do anything?
Yes, so we talked about, of course, it's January, so no paving can go on now, but we did talk about we will have someone go out, evaluate the crater, we'll patch until we can pave, and we or them will pave it as soon as the asphalt plants open in earnest in March, and we will get it done, whether it's us or them, and we'll hold back their bond money and take it out of there.
Okay. Now, just, I don't want to sound cynical, but maybe I am. Was the Boy Scout building ever considered, after they closed it up, to be used for the purpose we're using the building by the golf course?
This building right here?
Right across the way.
Yeah, well, it's privately owned, and they weren't interested in selling it.
Okay. And again, this may sound cynical, but I beg your pardon. On the land swap between the development on Deal and 35 and that other area, which I forget now, but you know what I'm talking about. In the back of your mind, not you personally, but the mind of the town council, was it considered that, you know, this really isn't going to fly because of the environmental conditions. However, we're going to throw it out there to keep people off our back and get a better deal, one or the other.
Well, no, it was a deal entered into earnest, and it was a hope that something would evolve from that, one way or the other. And I always knew, as a realtor for a long time, and as a realist, that you have to have plan A and B. And so my plan A would be the land swap, but knowing that we had some environmental constraints in the unlikely event that didn't work, which it didn't, plan B would be that we can at least secure or preserve some of the acreage there, which we had a deal on the table ready to go, but I think that was rescinded yesterday. Right, Marty?
That's my understanding, it was rescinded, yes.
It was withdrawn, so
So they're going with the whole thing again?
seems like
Yeah, they said if the litigation was over, the two litigations were over, they would proceed, but they're not going to proceed in light of the litigations that are still pending.
And last, of course, but not least, a shout out to my buddies at Public Works, Alyssa, Nancy, and Tom.
Oh, we just hired a new person up there.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Hanky's in. How come you don't say hi to Hanky?
Power curve.
Isn't Hanky in New York?
I would have told you that. Very nice. They appreciate it. Thanks, Don.
I like a shirt.
You know, I was just teasing you, right?
Open, don't worry.
Okay.
Peter Young, 610 Deal Road.
Hang on, Pete. We just got a technical malfunction.
Start the
It's not a
clock over.
malfunction.
Stuck?
Nah.
First time using it.
Break it, you buy it.
I think he's going to try to get some words in before the clock starts.
I'm going to go with the old stopwatch.
That's what I would do.
Dave, put it on the computer.
Yeah, you ready?
Oh, you got it?
No, but
All right, so Dave's going to clock it right
I
there.
got it. Go ahead.
this is the problem.
Since there was reference made to
It's user.
some sort of proposal about the developer offering something in exchange on the corner property, can you describe that a little bit, or that's something?
What the proposed deal was going to be? Yeah, it was going to be where we would have about 9 to 10 acres dedicated to the township. We would eliminate about 28 to 30 of the townhomes, reduce the size of that, which is always a good thing. And They originally wanted $6 million for the favor, and got them down to $4 million, and that was going to be the deal. And that was going to be funded by the Open Space Trust Fund that's been in place for over a year now.
And of that $4 million that was getting, I believe, somewhere around 9 or 10 acres.
Mm-hmm.
And of that 9 or 10 acres, was that including 6 lands that are wetlands along top of the road?
It was going to include any of the open space there to be deeded to the township. And the reason for that is because things change over time. Right now there's an extra 100-foot of buffering that didn't need to be there, but we got that in there. And, you know, you don't want to run the risk of somebody 5-10 years down the road coming in and, hey, we did a swap here, we did a swap there. We want to be able to develop this land. So anything that we can get dedicated to us, I didn't think was a bad idea.
And
I thought it beat a poke in the eye with a sharp stick. That's what I thought it would be.
And just to correct, there was 2 possibilities. One was the land getting subdivided and sold to the township, but the other possibility, and probably the first step, would be a conservation easement or some type of easement that would preclude any future development of all that acreage, because the subdivision would require another application to a board. So this way, it would just be done by an easement agreement. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And did the town at all kind of look at the sort of financial or economic idea that, you know, it was something like $10 million to purchase all the property, and then for $4 million we're getting 9 of the 38?
Yes, and here's how that works. I'll explain it to you. I know where you're going. I want to use up all your time. The man made a purchase of that whole property unimproved and unapproved for $10 million. Now in real estate, once you have an approved site and you spend money to improve, there's another value there. Also, you're paying for eliminating 28 townhomes or 30 townhomes. There's a value there as well. So it goes beyond just raw costs. It's hard to calculate and say, well, you only paid $10 million for it on a blind, and so, you know, a third of that should only be worth $3 million. It doesn't work like that in real estate. The values to what the potential can be of the land. If you had a forensic audit or appraisal of the property, they would absolutely calculate townhouses value, all that stuff, improvement costs, et cetera, et cetera.
Did the township have any appraisal to support that proposal?
We didn't have a forensic appraisal. That would be if we were going to condemn it. If they were hostile and didn't want to sell it to us, we would have done that. But we came to an agreement that seemed fair.
So who's making the conclusion as to the value of that $4 million?
Me.
There's no. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
Mr. Sullivan.
Yes, sir.
My name's Harold Cassidy. I live in 1 Surrey Lane. Mayor, I don't come down here much. I've been living in town for 42 years, so I don't bother you. That's
It's only the 3rd time I've seen you in those 42.
He bothers me once in a while.
I bother him a lot.
Once in a while.
But I'd like to start by thanking you for your service. It's a tough job. I suspect it's probably thankless. I'd like to go to 2 things. I don't know if I'll do it in 5 minutes. One is a little mundane. The other, I think, is a bigger issue that I'm going to introduce that would, I think, require a lot of discussion over a period of time. The mundane issue. I live on the corner of Roselle and Surrey Lane. Across the street from us is the woods that I guess is part of the Country Club. There's so much trash thrown along the roadway, out of windows, that I'm the guy for I've been living there for 35 years in that particular residence, and I'm the trash man. I'm getting tired. We go up and down the street. Often I fill an entire bin. Now what's prompted me to come down here and bother you people is that not long ago I had some guests at my house, and I was in what would be the northwest corner of the property, and it was in horrific odor. And it was evident, when I was with one of my guests, it was evident that it was a decaying animal. I walked across the street, there was a huge black bag Now, I don't know who's throwing trash. I know something about them. They drink beer, they drink hard liquor, they smoke cigarettes, they eat donuts.
It wasn't me, Harold.
Okay. I was looking at you, but I wasn't suggesting. So, this time, there was a dead dog.
Oh, Jesus.
All right? Now, I throw things away. I have no idea what to do with the dog. So I called the police. They came down. They were great. They were absolutely great. They called the sanitation department. Sanitation department took the dog away. Did not remove the black bag next to the door. Okay? So I left it there to see how long it would stay there. After 3 weeks, I went out and got it. Okay? I would like you to consider passing an ordinance holding the owner of a car responsible for trash being thrown out of the car. I travel around the country. My work brings me different parts of the country. I do not see this in South Dakota. I don't see it in Iowa, Kentucky, Ohio, even Texas. I see it in New Jersey, New York. Can we have an ordinance, and I believe this is constitutional. In New York, as an example, the owner of a car can be held responsible for the acts of negligence of the driver, whoever it happens to be. And there has to be a way we have to do a better job. I'm going to invite you to drive down Roosevelt Avenue. When you get into the snaky turns, look at the trash. It's deplorable. That's a little mundane thing. I'm sorry to take so much time on it.
If I may comment, stop the time. If I may comment, so during Clean Sweep each year, that section is a section that somebody goes and cleans up. And I don't know if you're familiar with Clean Sweep, but we have a Saturday in the fall, Saturday in the spring. I got assigned that spot this year. So I'm very well, it took me 3 bags to fill up that 2-block area. So I'm very familiar with that. I mean, I'll leave it up to Marty if that ordinance can be done.
In between the 2 times you come,
Oh yeah, no, and I'm not, that's not my point. I get it. There's a lot of junk there.
2 or 3 weeks.
Right, right.
I do it every week. I just don't have the time.
Yeah, I must have got you between the weeks you did it.
Another thought might be that maybe we can organize volunteers around the town and volunteers to take a block or something.
That's what we do.
Well, that's what they do on
That's
Clean
what we do.
Sweep. That's Clean Sweep. Twice a year. It's only
Twice
twice.
a year's no good.
Okay.
Twice a year's.
Listen, if we can get them all the time, I think it would be great. I mean, we do have a good turnout for when we do
Give
do
some
it.
consideration. Look into it.
I'll look
Marty
into it.
can help you find out if that can be done.
Okay.
Okay. How much time do I have left?
Minute.
All right. I'm going to introduce you to the big topic. This will take a little more time. I will have to come back some other night. After 42 years, I think we have an identity problem with this town, beginning with the name. Okay? People think when I tell them I live in Ocean Township that I live in Ocean
County, right.
which I hate.
Right.
I don't want anyone to think I live in Ocean County. If I call information, and ask for Marty's telephone number, that I will get a recording and they will ask me, Ocean Township near Trenton or Ocean Township near Atlantic City. Drives me crazy.
Yeah.
And I often get numbers for the other Ocean Township. I would ask that you consider, just consider, talking about changing the name. You can put it on a ballot. I would vote for West Deal. Everyone knows where that is. Has a nice image. Has a nice sound to it. Some people might want to like Oakhurst, whatever. I'm going to ask you to consider it. I'll come back and talk about the second half of this identity issue because it's a little more of a discussion.
Okay.
All right. I
Yeah.
don't know when I'll get here, but
We'll be there.
Well, excellent.
if you'll have it.
Just out of curiosity, did you call the other Ocean Township up and tell them to change their name?
They
They
did.
did.
change their
They're
name.
Ware Town.
They're Ware Town.
But they're still
Which-
listed as Ocean
What
Town.
town? Ware Town. I don't get that either. But Harold, I'm going to tell you, and I know it drives you crazy.
We were
although that's not that long a drive. But the bottom line is, I don't like that either. And
You don't like what?
I don't like the Ocean. I get the same thing. Ocean Township, Ocean County, by Tom's River.
Yeah,
That's
you're
pretty
from
much everybody
Bayside.
says. It's frustrating.
Than that, I don't like the name Ocean Township.
Well, because we have all this land at the ocean. Oh, that's right. We don't. Never mind.
We used to.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Cassidy.
Service. You guys are great.
Appreciate it.
I'll see
Thank you.
again.
Have a great night.
Thank you. Anybody else? Plenty of time, no? We have one, two. We have and somebody walking up. So
Dennis ain't raising his
the
hand.
walker
He's just
beats you.
coming up. He's assuming the sale.
Okay.
Howard, 1638 Holden Street. Mr. Marcillo isn't here tonight, but he gave me a lot of information about what's going on Brookside Avenue regarding demolition of the houses that were bought out by
Blue Acres. Blue Acres. Mm-hmm.
And that's led me to a couple other questions. I wish you were here tonight. Can you tell me how many homes were offered a Green Acres buyout?
How many were offered?
In Ocean Township?
Well,
Not taken?
well, I think 21 on that block, and there was some over on Well Pond also that we did a Blue Acres meeting there, and folks there turned it. We didn't have enough for them to even pursue it there on the Well Pond Brook. No, enough takers. They need to have so many consecutive homes, at least 2 in a row, plus a few others, and I think they only had 5 takers on that Well Pond Brook. And here, I thought they had over 11 or 12 that originally signed up for it.
But only 7 actually took it?
I thought there was more than that, actually. I didn't know only 7 so
You know
far.
what? I mean,
torn down,
unfortunately, Mike's not here, and I don't know if you were here in the beginning, but his father-in-law passed away this morning.
Right.
So that's why he's not here. So I might probably you want to get that information from him. He might have more of that
Is that
information.
information just in the public domain that I can find it myself?
You know my office. I'll take care of it for you.
Yep.
Any of these things?
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't actually have a
Yeah,
name.
thanks.
And, well, maybe you know this then. If somebody turns down the offer, can that property be subject to an offer going forward?
Only if, here's the thing, they come around with the program when it's funded, and they ask that you get so many property owners. In other words, if you had 3 people change their mind 5 years from now, they're not going to do it. They would need, again, 9, 10 or whatever.
Constraint that's put on the property, say somebody at Brookside Avenue turned it down this year.
No.
And 10 years later.
No, if they were offering it 10. No, if they offered it 10 years from now, the program, and they were in your neighborhood, you can take it then.
Okay.
Sure. Might even be a different owner at that time.
Sure. And this information is clear that everybody has in different agencies. DEP knows about the program.
It's a state program, yeah.
Army Corps of Engineers, all those guys know. Everybody knows about it. Good.
Okay.
Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome. Okay.
Good crowd tonight, Don. Ron,
You want to bring some in?
yeah.
Hi.
Cheryl
Hey,
Miller,
Cheryl.
41 Branch Road. I was wondering if our town was considering enacting a ban on plastic bags, straws, etc., like the other towns. Long Branch just enacted one, and
Yeah.
Seabright, Monmouth Beach, and so on. There's, I believe, 48 towns in New Jersey.
We do. I mean, we talked about it. What's unique about Long Branch, Asbury Park, Seabright, the other towns is they don't have 5 or 6 huge box stores or big chain stores like that. So in other words, it's easier when you have a little mom and pop grocery store. Hey, you want to play along with us? Be a good green neighbor? Sure. No more plastic bags. But to go into Costco and Wegmans and to Food Town and then to the other stores that we have and try to pitch that, then they got to go to corporate and then back and forth. And so that's where a lot of the struggles are. We're hoping, though, a lot of those stores are starting to come around and thinking greener. So we put it out to them all the time, and it's a hard thing just to ban it and then involve all of them.
But I hope that you would consider it. And
We've always considered it.
the state, I don't know how it got through the Senate,
Mhm.
but not the Assembly. So
Yeah.
we'll see if the state comes through. But
Yeah, we're hoping.
thank you for considering that.
Oh, yeah, of course. Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Sullivan, come on up. Yes, sir.
Hello, I'm Edward Vincent Colleen Frederick Sullivan.
There's 5.
I did reside at 721 Corey's Avenue, West Elmhurst. I just wanted to say to people who have been nice to me, lunch break and all those people who didn't means test me. I have to say Rebecca at Madonna House did lend me $500 to buy a place in Howell Township. So you guys basically have one. you know, basically, yeah, Rebecca definitely helped, and, you know, lady named Lori, who's a living saint, let me and others live in her living room, which I know would be illegal in the township of Ocean, but it's better. I'm very happy to be moving as a person and not a popsicle. It's been cold outside, and I'm, you know, I know you guys are, gals too, are real happy that basically, you know, the poor people are pretty much booted out, and me and my family. And the condemnation thing is a facade. It's just known. I don't mean any disrespect, but it is. It's like now you walk near the bathroom and it's like it's going to fall down. The problem's imminent. I'm waiting for the report from the structural engineer, which should be forthcoming. It's just taken them a while to produce it. And Diana was, you know, I think you had a power surge, and it's affected our computers as far as email, but I'll shortly have the remediation plan. My house is for sale
Right.
for $699,900. That's $100 under 700,000. That's a kind of a distress sale. I'm not going to take any less than that. If I have to, you know, if I can, if you guys will give me the permits when I apply for them, you know, do the repairs.
I wouldn't, but that's, I mean, we would give them to you. I'm just saying, talk to your realtor. I wouldn't recommend you do anything to the house and sell it the way it is. I think that's your best, highest and best and most profitable way to go.
Well, if it's condemned, there's people that say there's rules that you can't, but I believe you can buy and sell anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this has had an effect on me, well, certainly emotionally. I mean, I've been there 40 years, and my legacy is what you do to help people make it to heaven. We're here a short time. That's the legacy, not the piece of property, though it's a lovely piece of property I've enjoyed for 40 years. The character of township ownership has certainly changed, because there was a time you were there to represent the citizens. Now it's more like the agenda of the town, and it's bigger than me. With due respect, you guys caved into Chris Anderson and John and Sam Brown, who decided they don't want, the poor people were kicked to the curb. The system, some people ended up better off. Eleanor, thank God, but Liz, Dave, Brian, Patty, and Ursula basically have not, the town basically didn't help in the transition. Social services isn't helping them. And if it weren't for Lori, I wouldn't have been able to afford them either to help them. I mean, I'm basically helping them, have to help them with motel, or they'll be outside. It's come and whopped me like pretty good, because nobody has help. Yes, if I sell, I might be able to get it in a mobile home or something, but some people are, you know, I guess the work ethic says, well, just get a job and work your way out of it. They do work. There's some disability. There's a child with disabilities, and yeah, this thing has I'm not a sage, but this has rattled my cage a little bit. And you know, I pray to hold it on the road and put it on the automatic pilot to heaven. But it's a real change of representative government. These people, how much longer do I have?
Your time's
5
up.
seconds.
Right now.
Limits, term limits, don't believe in them. Time limits, don't believe in
Right.
them. Love limits, definitely don't believe in them. Some things,
Right.
I don't know. I'd be happy despite all hazard move forward despite all obstacles.
Okay. Not to cut you off, but we gave you a few more seconds here. But thank you, Mr. Sullivan. We appreciate it. Right.
I will send you a letter on
Appreciate that.
Brian's taking it, because again, I did get a letter saying my house would be dosed in 45 days. So far with Diane Hamlin, I don't think you're gonna do it, but
Right.
a normal person would be scared out of their mind, you know? I'm not, because I guess I'm not normal. God bless
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Thank you. Good seeing you again. Yep. Anybody else? Yep, come on up.
Okay, I'm Roy Larson. I live at 1517 Logan Road. Just a simple question. I'm trying to summarize the presentation from early on tonight. A lot of information was given there, and my family's going to say, well, what was the bottom line? And it seemed to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, there was something called an ovariectomy which works, and it's something that would reduce the population, and it's written up, it's in science, but there's a snowball's chance, where to get it approved in the state of New Jersey. It was requested, I think the last time it was approved was 15 years ago, and it hasn't been successful ever since. What else can I tell my family?
That sums it up. I think you hit this. That's the summary.
I didn't miss anything.
No, you didn't miss anything.
Very succinct.
And I like the thing about tick tubes. I'm going to look into the tick tubes.
Yeah, I like that too. I'm going to check that out.
That's the most practical thing I heard tonight. Thanks.
All right,
Have a
thanks,
good
man.
night.
Anybody else? I see some young men. Scouts, you have anything for us? Sir, come on up.
Good evening, guys. Can you hear me good?
Yeah.
Shaquille Malik from 751 Bound Road. It's I think my first time coming to a council meeting, but I really appreciate the opportunity I have, and I hope you guys are having a good evening. So I came here to talk about Ocean Taxi. I did email.
Oh yes, I got it. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make the council aware of the situation. I don't know if you spoke with them already or. Ocean Taxi is currently operating private vehicles as taxi cabs in this township. It's a danger to our community because they're not insured and obviously not registered. I understand that I spoke with the clerk a few days ago and he told me that they are fulfilling all of the township's requirements every year whenever their inspections are or whatever you guys do. They are fulfilling that, but there are vehicles being operated that are privately owned as taxi cabs. And it's not rocket science to figure this out. You can just call them, and the car you will get, you will see it as private plates. I made a list of the cars they have. I've also made videos of me using their service and recording the whole interaction, recording the private plate, recording the driver. So, I mean, it's really not too tough to figure it out, and anybody can put in like 5-10 minutes to figure it out.
Okay. I did I think you heard in the beginning, I shared your email with the town manager, who unfortunately lost his father-in-law this morning, so he'll be out in a week or so. Then once he looks at it, we'll share amongst the council members. But we had a big agenda today, so we didn't get on that one yet. But
who's the best person to contact to move forward with this matter?
I think the clerk actually, myself or the clerk, because Mr. Budaglieri can share it also with us and the town manager. He usually shares every email he gets with us that's pertinent to the town.
What we can do is, based on the fact that you know for a fact that they have these vehicles, we can.
I'm sorry to cut you off.
Quite all right. I'm used to it. I'm married.
She doesn't watch the video.
We just hired one of their previous drivers, and he's the one who actually informed me of the situation.
And I'm sorry, you're with who?
Competitor.
Right.
No.
No, my
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. That wasn't my okay. Competitor's good for now.
But he's doing everything right, and
Yeah.
he wants.
Yet, but
I'm
I
with
would
you.
love to open a company in town if I could serve my community. Why not?
Right.
And I would do it the right way, obviously.
Gotcha. I see where you're going.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yep. Let's just reset our timers here.
Jackie Wenzel,
Should've
60
gone away.
Deal Road.
Okay.
I'm not going to be long at all.
Okay.
I've had a long day. I love this. I wanted to thank you for this. I think this makes it so much nicer and more dignified for the community people to come up and talk. One thing I wanted to just comment on that the other gentleman brought up about the trash. Mr. Cassidy spoke about the trash. I've driven through places where there's signs, fine for littering, do not litter, and a fine. And in that spot where, I know what he's talking about, it's like where the road curves in a lot of woods, we should probably have one there. I mean, I find it sometimes on Deal Road too, I'm picking up Coke cans from, McDonald's, things that are along, maybe along the parks. But that might be with a fine, then the police can help us monitor it.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, Jackie, littering has been illegal for so many years. I think everybody who does it knows it's illegal. And they know they're going to be fined if they get caught. The problem is, that's a fair question, and I don't know it offhand.
1,000.
I have a sign on one of my pictures from when I went for a clean sweep, up to $1,000.
Yeah. Okay.
But if people don't know it, it's hard for a police officer to call someone over if you were to put a sign up. You're saying like right now, if someone threw something out the window, the police could pull them over?
Absolutely.
We don't know what our fine is. It's $1,000.
Up to. It says
Yeah,
no littering fine up to $1,000.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of violations that, we don't have signs up for everything. And the bottom line is, I don't think there's anybody around who doesn't know that littering is illegal and you're not allowed to litter and you'll be fined. The problem with littering is, if Harold is outside and sees a license plate number, and then we have an issue as to whether or not you can fine the owner of the car, that's an issue we'll try to resolve. But most time littering is done, no one comes in and says, I saw this person do it, described them, or I got this license plate here.
I just have seen signs on roads before. It's usually a little trash can, or it's like someone missing a trash can, and it's a littering fine. And I just thought if there are hot spots, you
Go
would know
after
where they
that.
are.
Absolutely.
We can sweep up. Where is the most dense trash? Maybe anyway, it was a thought.
Okay, well, I mean, we might have to cover the signs with like a white thing to keep the deer away.
Sounds like a good experiment. I thought that was a really great presentation, by the way.
What?
Tell her she's here.
Anybody else? No? Seeing or hearing no one, someone make a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second.
Deputy Mayor Napolitani.
Yes.
Council members Achara.
Yes.
Donlin.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
And Mayor Siciliano.
Yes, meeting adjourned. Thank you all for joining us. We are twice a day, 10 a.m. 7 p.m. Channel 22 if you have Fios, 77 if you have Cablevision. And we are on YouTube 24 hours after each meeting. Good night, everybody.